Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I am going to be doing my mid-month wrap-up for August, and I've decided that this is how I'm going to do these from now on because I don't want them to be super long at the end of the month, so I'm going to split them into two parts from here going forward because I've been back to reading like a book a day, and that just makes the end of the month wrap-ups like crazy long. So this is going to be the recent books that I've read this month. So the first three books I'm not going to go super in-depth on because they're all in my I Read Viral TikTok contemporary romance video, which I will link down below if you haven't seen it yet, and so I talk about them more in that one. But the first one I read was 1,000 Boy Kisses by Tillie. This one I think I gave this one 3.5 stars. I didn't love this one, mostly because I felt like it was pretty predictable. I mean, obviously, like, if you've read it, you know exactly why it's predictable. And I was really mad about the piece of information that was missing from the epilogue that just kind of, like, ruined my whole reading experience with that book, which is kind of sad. But that was just how it was. The next one was Red, White, and Royal Blue by McQuiston. This was another one I didn't love too much. I think I gave this one 3 or 3.5 stars as well. And for me, I really think I've like watched some other people's video about this book since reading it, and I think what it really comes down to is the fact that I'm Canadian. I know nothing about US politics or the monarchy, so all of that was going on in the book was just like crazy boring to me and like didn't enhance the plot in any kind of way for me. And so I think that was why I just didn't vibe with this book. I think it literally comes down to the fact that I didn't care about that part of it, and I don't generally like politics in my romance novels to begin with. The next one was The Problem with Forever by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This one I did like, but I mentioned this in my TikTok video and I felt like I read it before, which is really strange because I know I haven't read this book before, but I just thought the plot was very like simple and predictable. Like, it wasn't anything special. I gave this one 3 stars as well. This was my least favorite of the ones I read in that video, and yeah, I thought it was okay. It's good for like a YA book. Like, if you're younger and you're looking for a book, it's pretty good, but like for where I'm at with my reading, I just wasn't really a fan. The next book I read was The Layover by Lacie, Waldon, and I was not expecting to love this book as much as I did. I remember reading the blurb for this book like way back when it was still available for pre-order and thinking I might like it, but not really being fully committed to reading it, and I ended up putting a hold on it on my library and just like being like, oh, I'll go for it, and I loved this book. And the weirdest part of that is that I actually don't think they hook up at any point in this book, and I didn't even notice until I was finished the book, which is like the weirdest thing to like I feel like that's a big thing to not notice, but I just didn't the entire time I was reading it. I actually found this book really funny, which, if you know me and rom-coms, I have like a love-hate relationship with them because a lot of times I find they're just not funny, and this one was really funny. I feel like me and the author had the same sense of humor because there were moments where like it literally was just like one-liners where I was like dying because they were so funny, and I really liked just the whole vibe of this book. It really reminded me of The Hating Game, and it's basically about these 2 flight attendants. One of them is the girl who is planning to retire basically from being a flight attendant. She's like in her late 20s, I think, and she's getting married to this guy who doesn't want her to be traveling all the time. So she's going on her last flight and she's really excited about it because it's got a 24-hour layover in Belize. And when she gets to the airport, immediately she is trying to get this parking spot, and this guy that's also a flight attendant for her airline is also like, he's trying to take her parking spot, and she like really like guns it into the spot, and he's like making fun of her and whatever, and she's just getting like so irritated by this guy. He shows up, he ends up like being at her favorite restaurant in the airport when she goes in and stuff, and she just like can't stand his presence, and then he ends up being on her flight obviously, and she's just like, this is horrible, like this is gonna be the worst last flight ever. And they end up spending a lot of time together while they're in Belize and like while they're working and stuff, and it was so funny and so cute. I was literally smiling the entire time I read this book. It was so good. The next book I read was True by Erin McCarthy, and I gave this one 2 stars, and I'm like really sad about it because I really thought I was gonna love this book. I have had this book on my radar for a long time because I know Lovely Like Laura has mentioned it in videos in the past and it sounded really interesting. I just didn't vibe with this one. The sort of like synopsis on the book is that this girl is in college and her roommates are like big partiers and she's not, and they find out that she's a virgin, and so they hire, the back of the book says they hire like the campus bad boy basically to hook up with her so that she can like move past that. And so I was thinking that it was going to be along the lines of like After by Anna Todd. I was thinking, you know, he'll be paid to like be with her, and then they'll actually fall in love. She'll find out that he was paid, get mad, they'll break up, and then he'll be like, no, I truly love you, and they'll get back together. But that was not this book at all. And so I was kind of like disappointed in that, because I felt like I knew what I was getting into with this book, but I really didn't. Because like before the halfway point in the book, she already knows that he was paid. And I was just like, well, what's gonna happen in the second half of the book at this point? There's a couple other issues I had with this book that may have just been the product of the fact that it's an older book. But like one of the big ones was there's a point in the book where her dad is telling her that she shouldn't be with this guy. And he's going through this rant about his family. And one of his issues is that the youngest brother has a different father than the rest of them. And I could not, for the life of me, figure out why that mattered, or why he was saying it like it was made him like less of a person or anything, because none of their fathers were around. Like even the father of the other boys wasn't there. So why did it matter that this one had a different father who wasn't there? Like that just didn't make any sense to me at all, and it really bothered me. And there was like a couple other things in this book that just bothered me, and so I'm just like not interested in continuing on with this series, which like I said is sad because this is a book that I have looked forward to for a long time but wasn't a fan. Next was Isn't It Romantic by Lyssa K. Adams. I gave this one 4 stars. I've seen a lot of like negative talk about this book, but I actually really like this one. It's Vlad's story, if you've read any of the other books, the hockey player, and I was excited about that because I love a good hockey player book, if you know me, but there's like 0 hockey in this book, so if you're reading it for that, you may want to find another book. But I did really like this one. I liked that they have been married for 6 years, but this story was still a slow burn, which I thought was really funny. I did think this book had a lot of funny moments, and as well, like I said, again, with the rom-coms, I had issues with that sometimes, but I did think this one was pretty funny, and I just thought it was really cute. I don't know why people are like hating on it. I could have done maybe without the loners, like the neighbors. I think I could have done without them, but I do see their place in the story, and I do think they might be setting that up for like a future storyline. I also really hope that Colton's book is next, because I was hoping that this book would be Colton's book, but it wasn't. Next, I read The Crush by Penelope Ward. This is a Brother's Best Friend book. I really liked this one. I'm like such a sucker for Brother's Best Friend, to be honest. And this one is about a girl who lives with her brother because their parents have died, and she's living with her brother, and his best friend moves in after college. And she's like 21 and he's like 27. And so he moves back and he decides he's going to rent their spare room in their house to sort of help them out with the mortgage because they're kind of struggling a little bit. And so he moves in for that reason, and so they're obviously spending a lot of time together. But this book kind of, it's almost like a second chance where you read like both of their chances, because it starts off the book where they're meeting in like 3 years. I guess it starts off in the present and then it goes 3 years later for like 170 pages. Like half of the book is 3 years later. And then it jumps again back to the present. And I read so much of that I actually forgot that it even jumped back and that it was going to jump again, and so that was kind of confusing. But it was sort of interesting to get to see like both parts of their relationship, and there was a lot going on in this book. It almost reminded me of like a Colleen Hoover book. Next was A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair, and this is one that I was not expecting to like as much as I did. I gave this one 4 stars as well. And this is a Hades and Persephone retelling, and I knew nothing about Hades and Persephone going into this, so that was interesting. But it's also like modern day set, and so it's not like Persephone goes to university and Hades runs like this club and stuff, and I just thought this was like really interesting. I'll probably continue with the series for this one because I did really like it, and I thought it was really unique and, like I said, interesting. And I think maybe I'm like getting into retellings now. I don't know. I've never like thought that would be something I'm into, but I did really like this one. Next was Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan, and I loved this book. Loved it so much. I think this may be my new favorite book of all time. I gave this one 5 stars. I'm not going to get too into this one or the next couple because they're all going to be talked about for a long time in my video that's coming out on Saturday, which I'm really super excited about, so be sure to subscribe if you want to see that one because it's going to be really good. The next book was Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. This is also for that video. This one is a childhood friends to lovers book that kind of does an alternating timeline similar to People We Meet on Vacation. If you've read that book, they had a falling out 11 years ago and you're kind of working your way through their childhood time together to the point where they stop talking, and you're also watching them 11 years in the future kind of living their lives. So I really like this one as well. I gave this one 4.5 stars because it wasn't quite 5 stars, but I did really like it. Next was Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. I guess I'll talk about the next two at the same time. I also read November 9 by Colleen Hoover, and these are also both for that video I'm putting up on Saturday. And I really liked these, but I've said this a couple times now. I sort of feel like I need to like think about Colleen's books for a while after I finish them to decide on a rating, because I feel like by the time I finish them I'm so like emotionally stressed that I just like hate them because I'm emotionally stressed, but then like a couple days later I'll be like, oh no, I actually really like that book. And so for now I've given these both 4 stars, but that could change in like a week. But I did like them, and I do think I'm going to like them once I get over the fact that I was emotionally distraught by the end of them. And so yeah, those are all the books I've read in the first half of the month. I'm really excited for the books I'm going to read in the second half of the month too. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below, and I will see you next time.